Howdy, 8th grade. I know you're going to be really disappointed to hear this, but today we have a pretty easy lesson that's going to seem like something we've learned before, but that's okay. Today we are solving inequalities by adding or subtracting. So I want to do a couple things for review real quick. Friendly reminder, when we say inequality, what we mean is anything with a less than sign, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to signs. And today we're going to be looking at how to solve those by adding or subtracting, which is going to make our lives a little bit easier because we can do this the exact same way we do it with equations or equalities. So it's going to look almost exactly the same as that, except these problems are going to be a lot easier because there's some special rules we're going to learn later when we multiply and divide for inequalities. There aren't any for adding and subtracting, so we can treat it just like it is a regular old equation problem. So we're going to jump right into an example. And this example is going to be that x minus 10 is less than negative 6. So we have x minus 10 is less than negative 6. And when I solve this, my goal is still going to be to get the variable by itself. So to get the variable by itself here, I see that I have an x and this minus 10 next to the x. To get rid of the minus 10, I'm going to add 10 to both sides. Just like this, now I have x is going to be less than negative 6 plus 10, which is 4. So x is less than 4. That's how it simplifies. All good to go. And I hope you guys look at this and say, well, that's exactly what I'd do if this was an equal sign, because it is exactly what you would do if it was an equal sign. If we had x minus 10 equals negative 6, we would do the exact same thing to solve for x, add 10 to each side, and we'd end up with x equals 4. So we're pretty much just going to treat these exactly the same way we would treat them if there was an equal sign, but we're going to hang on to this inequality throughout the whole problem. Let's try a different example. This one's going to be another easy one, then we'll try a little bit of a harder one. So I want us to try, let's do x minus 3 is greater than or equal to 5. So obviously I'm going to need to get rid of this minus 3 next to the x to get it alone. And the way I'm going to do that is to add 3 to both sides. X minus 3 plus 3, the 3's are going to cancel out nice and neat. So I have an x here, and that's going to be greater than or equal to 5 plus 3. And last I checked, the second graders are still telling us that 5 plus 3 is going to be 8. So x is greater than or equal to 8, and we are good to go. So I want to show you guys a little bit of a harder problem. And for this problem, it's going to be 3 minus x is less than 5. So 3 minus x is less than 5. I'll draw a line here so we can tell that's a different problem. I want to solve this problem using only addition and subtraction. And I'm going to show you why that's a bit of a problem doing it otherwise. So I'm going to start by doing it with just addition and subtraction. And then I'll show you guys how I would do it using multiplication and division and why this is bad. So I'm going to make a note that this is the bad way. And this right here makes me happy because it's going to give us the right answer. So if 3 minus x is less than 5, I can add x to both sides. And that would give me 3 is less than 5 plus x. By subtracting 5 from both sides, I would get negative 2 is less than x. And that's how I would do it just with adding and subtracting. All I did here was add and subtract. Good to go. So now I'll try it this other way. I have 3 minus x is less than 5. And I decide to get rid of that 3. So we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. And I end up with negative x is less than 2. I'll multiply both sides by negative 1 times negative 1. I end up with x is less than negative 2. But looking at this over here, I have that x is greater than negative 2. And on this side I have x is less than negative 2. And if we plug in a number for x, like let's say that x is 0, this would say that x should be greater than negative 2 if x is 0. So that means that our original equation up here should be true if we plug in x is 0. So let's plug in a 0. 3 minus 0 is 3. We have 3 is less than 5, which is absolutely correct. So we find that the adding and subtracting way is the right way to do it, and this right here is not. So we should try to stick as much as we can to only adding and subtracting, because that will give us the right answer every time. Other than that, we should already know how to graph these things on a number line. We did that a little while ago. So once we have this, we should be able to make our little number line here. 0, negative 5 over there, 5. This is the most hideous 0 I have ever written. I'll fix that. And if I want to graph x is greater than negative 2, I'd start by putting a circle over negative 2 and an arrow on the side that is bigger than it, because our x has to be larger. And just like that, we've graphed our equation. If y'all could, I would love you guys to do the whole 4 problems on the lesson practice. I know that's going to be terribly difficult, all 4 of them, before y'all come into class, and we should be good to go. I will see y'all tomorrow.